Alright, so since I recently got this truck, and just going through it and everything and looking things over and see how bad I got screwed on it, and I figured I'd do a video showing some things to look for when you go to a buy here, pay here place, and how not to get screwed. So first thing you want to do is just do a good visual over everything. I don't know how well the camera picks up, but you can tell this door is a different color than you can tell from the rest. So the platinums had like a little pearl or something in the paint, and that's just like white. You can probably tell from the video. And then the gaps, it doesn't quite fit the body line right here. So and let's just show the dead giveaway. So you can see the type of butchery they did right here on the door skin. So I mean, it's piss poor at best. So you want to look over stuff like that and you hear it doesn't close that great, that's going to bother me. I guess it didn't have a leveling kit, so they put, this guy claims he put the spacer in so the inner fender wells are all tore up and foobar, thanks. So look at the tires. I mean, he put these garbage tires on there. I think they're kind of round. The TPMS obviously is tripping and going off. Check the brakes. You want to take a good visual at the brakes. See if you can look down between the wheel at the pads. Kind of try to shake the tire. See if you can hear any clunking or movement for ball joints and stuff like that. And then just do a good visual. What you can see over the suspension and stuff like that. This thing, I didn't even notice this. It's got a piece missing here. And then just do a good visual over it. I know a lot of people do the Carfax and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure it would show you some things and whatnot, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith and trust in that, because if somebody like me has got a hold of this truck and done what they want to do to it, that Carfax isn't going to show any of the work I've done or anything. And Carfax ain't going to show that this has a completely different drivetrain in it and makes 700 horsepower. It's not going to show that, because I don't report anything to them. So I guess you could look, see if there was any accidents, but a good visual look and make sure the paint matches. You want to look at the core support, your fenders, the gaps and everything. And like I say, just do a real good visual. Check the battery. This thing's from 2019, not surprising. The big thing you can probably see is all that mud. So I'm sure a teenager had this truck and hit every mud hole in South Georgia with it, at least at wide open. Check your fluids, your brake fluid. People don't understand that if it's low, you don't add to it, because as the brakes wear, the fluid level goes down, and when you put new pads, the level comes back up. So if you take it to some lube shops, they're just like, oh, it needs brake fluid, and they fill it up, and then when you go to the brakes and it's dumping out the top. Check your coolant. You'll want to smell it, see if it has any gasoline smell to it. If it does, it's got a blown head gasket. You definitely want to check the oil, make sure it's full, look at the condition of it. Is it how black it is, or the level of it and all that sort of thing. I know some vehicles don't have a dipstick tube for the transmission anymore. I don't know why, but so you might not have that opportunity to check transmission fluid on the newer ones. You want to check the air cleaner, and then climb up under it and do a good visual, see if you see any oil leaks anything leaking under there. On this one, there was an oil leak, so whenever they did the drain from the turbo on this side over here, the gasket wasn't sealing, and it was leaking out from the bottom of that turbo. And then the front drive shaft, it has 6 bolts in each end because of wild angles it has. It's kind of like a CV style. It's not U-joints like a traditional stuff, but none of them were tight. And they were so screwed up from not being tight from the shaft clunking around that I had to take the drive shaft completely out, find a tap and die, and go through and clean all the threads on both flanges, and then I had to run all the bolts through a die to get them to where I could put the drive shaft back together and it be tight. I mean, again, I'm not surprised. I made a deal with the devil, and this is what I got. So I'm just trying to make the best out of it. You want to look underneath and see all the mud where they've been having fun and jumping ditches. You can probably see some rust. There is some rust under there. Unbeknownst to me, a guy at church was actually telling me that apparently these trucks have problems with this corner. Who knew they were 69 C10s junk already? But you can tell that there's been something funny going on right here. See that bubble, and then there's some lines in there, so this is probably expandable foam and painted over from the type of person I got this truck from. So you know, what do you do? Look for wires and stuff. This thing had, you can tell the interior's been apart on this thing a few times. I tried to put it back together. Of course, whoever took it apart broke all the clips. Shocking. And there were wires just wrapped under here, and I don't like anything abandoned, so I pulled all that garbage out. Look over your interior, rips and tears. Make sure the seats go up and go down and do what they're supposed to do. And then you want to crank it up and listen for any kind of rattles or anything out of the ordinary. Watch the exhaust pipe from your mirror and see, if it smokes or just what it's doing on initial startup. Make sure it's got good oil pressure, and you want to check your headlights. The bulbs and the fog lights were blown out on this one, and you want to check your AC controls. You want to make sure that the heat and the air work, because typically it's going to be one season or the other. So, this being winter, everybody's worried about the heat. But you want to make sure that the AC works, the compressor's kicking on, and that whole deal. Just look at the overall quality of the interior. Make sure, it's decent. I mean, this has some wear on it right here, which is, that's everybody. They're going to have wear there. It has some WeatherTech mats, which are pretty nice. Sunroof, if it has a sunroof, try not to get one with a sunroof. I hate sunroofs. It's why do you want a hole in your roof to leak? And speaking of, let's take a look at that jewel. Oh yeah, check that out. I don't even know what that is. All the way around. But I mean, let's be real, if it doesn't leak, I really don't care. So, but I mean, that's why I hate sunroofs. So, but again, look over your tires. This one, you can see, well, right there, these are chopped real bad. I got a real good buddy that works at a tire shop. He taught me that. I mean, you can feel how bad the inside of this tire is cupped. I mean, it is destroyed. But it's got good tread from here out. So that gives you a roar while you're going down the road, which is awesome. But to buy here, pay here people, if you're not savvy to that, excuse me, then it looks good from here until you get in there and see that cup part. So, like I say, something else to look for. Of course, it's gonna be slam on empty, so it cost me $100 to fill it up before I even got out of his little area. And then, just do a good visual over everything. I already took their little decal off because I don't advertise. I'm not gonna say who I got this from. We won't say where this came from. But you can see it looks like they used the same pookie they did up there on the sunroof to try to hold this back panel on. And look over the exhaust, make sure it's all there, not rotted out and got holes in it. And then you want to drive it, see how bad it shakes and rattles and rolls. Listen for any kind of noise, clunking and stuff. Could be indicative of hubs, U-joints, just try to listen for stuff like that. The exhaust, they had put some new cats and stuff post turbo, and of course it looks like garbage, and I'm going to redo all that and redo the exhaust and put a good free flowing exhaust, and then I'll get a good intake and then get a tune for it and everything. So you can see where the head or the bulb burned out right there. I already put a new bulb in it. You can see right here where it had a bunch of stone chips, and then they touched all that up and everything. So you want to look at stuff like that. Somebody said something about the jungle gym. Well, we have a lot of deer around here, and let's be honest, I would take it off, but my son and my daughter, they like the brush guard, so I'll allow it. But it doesn't run and drive too bad. Like I say, I got to get these tires are 1.5 inches taller than stock, so I like stock. So it's just, this is stuff you want to look for. Like I say, crawl all under it. You want to look everything over real good. Like I say, I knew I was getting screwed, and I really, I had a choice, but it was kind of the desperate times call for desperate measures type deal with that orange truck. I just did not want to bring it back home, and I figured this would be more workable and usable than that truck was. And if I can, I knew I was going to have to go through this thing front and back and get it sorted out. I knew what I was going into. But if you're trying to go on your own to like a buy here, pay here, these are bargaining chips. Facebook Marketplace has ruined transactions and stuff, because if I posted this truck on there for sale right now for $10,000, I don't know how many posts or messages I would get. Would you take $5,000? Would you take $200? And sometimes, I'll screw with them and be like, yeah, I'll accept your gracious offer. And then you never hear from them again. So I don't understand why they want to offer you half of what you're asking. That seems to be the pattern. And then, of course, ghosting you. So Craigslist, I was on Craigslist back in the day when it first came out, and then I made a lot of transactions and deals on Craigslist. Met some nice people. I always went prepared, because there were people that went to buy stuff, and you got all that money to buy something, and then they'll ambush you or something. It's happened, so you got to be very careful with that. But with the inception of Marketplace, Craigslist has pretty much gone by the wayside. I'll still look on there from time to time, but mostly with Marketplace, I don't know, and people won't travel, at least around here. I've noticed there could be an hour away, and they're like, well, you're asking this much for it, you got to come down to this because I'm driving an hour. I'm like, it's not how that works. If I want something, I drove 110 miles to get this hunk of junk. If you want it, go get it. That's how that works. I'm not gonna help you out any because you drove. I've had people drive. I had a guy drive from New York one time to buy something from me, and he didn't complain one time or try to get me to come off the price at all. That's how it is. So but yeah, you just want to be prepared when you go to these buy here, pay here places, because they got this thing rigged just well enough to look as presentable as they can with the least amount of money. And like I say, I really didn't catch the door part. I mean, I saw the welding on the front seam there, that door, but again, like I say, at that point, this was my last option from leaving that stealership without the orange truck, so I gladly took it. And like I say, I mean, I so far I'm happy with it, and as long as the engine stays together and the transmission doesn't quit tomorrow, which it probably will. But you know, when I get one, the first thing I do is change all the fluids, change the filter and fluid in the transmission, change the engine oil and filter, check the rear diff, check transfer case, and that whole deal. So, you know, and the air filter and all those are things that I like to do and go through, you know, once I've looked over it and made the decision that I'm going to purchase it and live with my decision. So hopefully that helps somebody out or whatever. Probably a lot more rambling than real information, but you know, you really got to look things over, because these days, I have noticed that people are more prone to lie to you, and they have no soul. I mean, I know, you know, I'm a ginger. I don't have a soul myself, but it's just, it really bothers me how people are these days with telling you that this truck has, you know, everything's built, all this is done, and just, you know, feed you a whole line. He told me this truck had new turbos on it. I put my eyes on them and made sure that they at least look new compared to everything else, because he walked me over to it was a Escalade on the lot. He told me it had headers, a stage 4 cam, and blah 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 blah. Way up in the hood, stock manifolds. And I'm like, yeah, those are the stockish looking headers I've ever seen, you know. I mean, and people like him are the most dangerous, because he really doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, he's a used car salesman. He knows how to seal a deal. That's all he knows. He doesn't know the ins and outs of automotive. He just knows what to tell people to get them to buy it, and that's the most dangerous type. So, but anyway, I'll get it straightened out and I'll be happy with it. So that's it for now.